Mm. Nice. And I do think in this era it's plausible for her to be wearing eyeshadow and shit, right? I think.
As I'm sure you're aware, our parents arranged our marriage. Before I emigrated to this country to be married, I lived in a misty island nation. Portraits of my ancestors hung in the house where I live. I remember as a child wincing in fear at the sight of them staring down at me. My mother and father were constantly telling me to show them respect, as it was their hard work that kept our bloodline alive and well. However, they were fighting an uphill battle to do the same. It would have been clear to anyone reasonably perceptive that our house was coming tumbling down. Valuable furniture and paintings slowly disappeared, and eventually, the portraits were gone too. As our house collapsed, so too did my parents' health deteriorate, robbing us of any source of income. And though I was educated, I lacked the skills necessary to obtain work. Just as we were about to run out of money and options, my parents received Jacopo's parents' marriage proposal. Both of our families stood to benefit from the arrangement. I had social status and he had wealth. We each had what the other lacked. One needs more than money to make it in the world. Without at least a semi-reputable name attached to you, you're liable to get laughed out of most social gatherings. I first met Jacopo here, in this country. We didn't even know what the other looked like until our wedding day. To be quite honest, I was scared to death at first. I was so nervous. What kind of man would he be? Was I to be wed to some middle-aged stranger? We were not marrying because we had fallen in love like a normal couple. I knew I was in no position to be concerned with such things, but when I thought about our future, I shook with fear. But the man I saw through my veil at the wedding was remarkable. He was young, had strong masculine eyes, and at the same time, he too appeared nervous. He was shaking as much, no, even more than me. Seeing that, the priest gave an impish little smirk when he asked Jacopo if he vowed his eternal love to me. I counted myself among the happy, and I still do. For in that moment, I experienced true love. You wanted to hear about when he was kind to me? Well, after the wedding, we were given a week to ourselves. I suppose you could call it a honeymoon, though we didn't take a trip overseas or even go very far at all. He looked at me with uncertainty and asked,
Where would you like to go?
I beg your pardon?
That's what this week is for, right? I'll consider granting your request, so tell me where you want to go.
This is all so sudden.
Nothing? Well, this whole engagement was spur of the moment. Normally we would have planned out a trip in advance. But unfortunately, our purpose is served so long as we act the part. Wait. But unfortunately, our purpose is served so long as we act the part. You must be disappointed that you have to plan your honeymoon as it's happening.
No,
What? Speak clearly. I don't like it when people don't speak their mind.
I'm sorry, but I'm happy. Even if this is a political marriage.
Well, you're quite the positive thinker. Your parents say something to make you think that way? Well, either way, if you're so glad to be in this arrangement, then hurry up and decide on a destination. Though there is a limit to how far we can go. If you want to take a trip, I'll consider it. What? Is something funny?
It just seemed comical to me that our honeymoon has begun and we're only now deciding where we want to go. Not in a bad way, though. I'm glad our parents didn't arrange everything for us. Perhaps you've heard, but I'm quite sensitive to sunlight and not in the best of health. So it would be rather trying for me to spend a full week out of the house. We couldn't go on a trip, but, if it's not too much trouble...
Speak up.
Could you show me around town? I'm new to this country and unfamiliar with its customs, and I'm rather afraid to go wandering about on my own.
Show you around.
Yes. Would that be possible?
On a rare bit of time off, you ask me to show you around town? Is that really the most exciting idea you have?
I'm sorry. If, there is somewhere you would like to go, I'm fine with that. I will accompany you anywhere.
As if I could drag someone who just professed to being sickly all over the country. My God, I've lost all interest in a trip. Hello, what are you doing? Go get ready. Now.
I beg your pardon?
Didn't you want to go see the town?
You will show me around?
You're the one who asked. Not like I have any other options, so yeah, I'll show you around.
Thank you.
Don't just stand there, you dullard. Get a move on.
One moment. Wait for me, please. He hurriedly climbed into the carriage he had called for, a look of frustrated displeasure on his face. And then, as if he had forgotten about me until that moment, he returned, grabbed me by the arm, and led me to the carriage. In retrospect, I realize he was not being very gentlemanly, but I was pleased that he was making any attempt to interact with me at all. As the carriage trotted down the streets, I saw so many new things. I had spent most of my time cooped up inside at home, so it was like stepping into an entirely new world. And add to that the rapid industrial advancement currently taking place. I saw men shouting back and forth as they smacked newspaper articles with the backs of their hands. I saw corner cafes crowded with cigar-smoking men on break from work. It was like the hustle and bustle of a festival. But every festival has its underside. I also saw overworked men, looking like they were on the verge of collapse, drinking water from a spigot on the side of the road. By way of contrast, I wore fine clothing and had a carriage at my disposal. I imagine every day was a struggle for them just to remain afloat. Had I not married the man I had, I too might have found myself on the streets in a similar position. But it was not relief that spread through my breast at the sight of them. It was pangs of guilt. It felt to me like a life of opulence was wrong, sinful. It broke my heart to know that I was living so much better than them. Jacopo snorted disapprovingly at me, seemingly reading my mind, and then said,
The poor man who envies the rich covets his wealth and finds ambition to make the same for himself. And the rich man who pities the poor, thinking it his duty to... Oh, God. Wait. That is... I must be dyslexic because that sentence doesn't look like it makes sense to me. Let's try again. The poor man who envies the rich covets his wealth and finds the ambition to make the same for himself. And the rich man who pities the poor, thinking it his duty to give them offerings of philanthropy. Oh, okay. See, I'm an idiot. He's listing two things. The poor man who envies the rich covets his wealth and finds the ambition to make the same for himself, and the rich man who pities the poor, thinking it his duty to give them offerings of philanthropy. To me, the latter is far more nefarious. Excessive charity will ruin a man, make him come to expect handouts. And then there are those with the wrong idea of pity, who let themselves fall down to the same place, mistakenly believing it will somehow make the poor feel better. What a joke. If you're gonna do anything for them, you might as well encourage them to climb upward. Spur on economic growth in the flow of capital. Doesn't that sound like the better option?
I say nothing, simply smiling and giving an ambiguous nod. He had a point. My sympathy and guilt meant nothing to people actually experiencing hardship. If, feeling guilty of my own fortune, I acted upon that pity in the way he had described, I would accomplish little more than self-satisfaction. He seemed to have seen straight through to my very core. This was a man who had built his own fortune through investment, which I imagine required him to be rather astute. But doesn't a world where everyone is constantly trying to climb higher and higher sound rather exhausting? I personally would prefer to be in a position where I could watch, if only from a distance, as others climbed. But obviously I could not say as much to him.
Oh, capitalism. Even in the early stages, people were recognizing its shortcomings.
Some time later, the carriage came to a stop in front of a shop. As I looked at the building perplexedly, he gestured to the door with his chin, signaling for me to get out. Lost and confused, I stepped down from the carriage, and before me spread a showcase behind a large glass window. However, lined up in the case were not precious metals or expensive clothing, but machines. At first I had no idea what kind of devices they were.
Have you never had your photo taken before?
No. I have had a portrait painted, though. Are these machines for taking photographs?
A portrait, eh? Why am I not surprised?
I did not mean to boast.
Well, go on, get in.
Please, wait for me.
That face fucking kills me every time, man.
The owner came out to greet us with a wide smile as we entered the shop.
Well, if this ain't the strangest thing I've seen all day. You bringing a lady, and a real looker at that. Where on earth you catch a pretty little thing like this? She's my wife. Ah. Well, I beg your pardon. I'll be a monkey's uncle. Just goes to show you never know where the cards may fall. You make it sound like my getting married is some kind of miracle. I always saw you as the one to choose money over love, sir. Oh, pardon me indeed. Shit. Fuck me, god damn it. Where's the log button? There it is. Pardon me. This isn't appropriate to say in front of your wife.
Do you come often to this shop?
On occasion. I need some things here from time to time.
I see.
There you go smirking again. What's so funny?
We're going to have our photo taken, yes? I'm so nervous and excited. I've never had one before. And to have it taken side by side with you.
What are you talking about?
Pardon?
Who said we were getting our pictures taken? And side by side, please. You're sending shivers down my spine.
But this is a photography shop.
Hey, shopkeep. The product I contacted you about, is it ready? Oh, yep. Just sit tight. I'll be right out.
Huh?
You take a seat. There's a chair over there.
What?
I'm going to show you something much more exciting than sitting still and waiting in front of a camera lens.
Oh?
Just do as I say.
Okay. I sat down in front of a large mirror, which I presume was normally used to check your appearance before having your picture taken. Sitting before a mirror with someone else present was quite nerve-wracking. Out of embarrassment, I dropped my gaze to my knees. But when Jacopo returned, I was entranced by the curious object in his hands. What is this?
Do you know what persistence of vision is? The human eye does not perceive the world 100% accurately. This is especially true for objects in motion. It remembers images for a short time, so if you put a new image in the same place, your eye perceives it as in motion. Seeing for yourself will be faster than explaining it. You see the slits in the disc? Look through the bottom one and into the mirror.
Okay.
Good, just like that. Bring your head in close. Here goes.
Standing behind me, he slid his finger across the top of a peculiar toy, causing it to spin gracefully, and then...
So, what do you see?
They're dancing. A man and a woman are dancing.
Sounds like you're not having any trouble seeing it. Are they dancing well?
Yes, they are. It's the most adorable thing.
What? Adorable? That's funny. I asked to have it modeled after a ballroom dance.
Yes, it's a very elegant dance. But you see, they're small, like little dwarves, which I thought was kind of cute. And they seem so close, going around and around without ever letting go of each other's hands. This is incredible. Why does it look like they're dancing? They were all lined up in a row a few moments ago.
Goodness, I just explained that to you. It's playing a trick on your eyes. What you're seeing is lots of different pictures in a short period of time. To put it in words you might understand better, it's an illusion. Your eyes are being fooled into thinking the image is moving.
An illusion? But they're dancing. They really are. And they look like they're having a wonderful time. Are you sure it's an illusion and not something else? To me, it does not seem to be. I cannot see it as anything but two tiny people dancing.
That's how it works. Reach out your hand and try to grab them. You won't be able to.
You're right. That's a shame.
I didn't think you actually would.
But it's the most precious thing. They look as though they're dancing atop my palm. I was mesmerized by the strange phenomenon. Pictures were moving after all. Still images had begun dancing before me. It was almost as if God had breathed life into them. He had called it an illusion, but I could not grasp that. It was such an adorable, heartwarming sight. I imagined the two were off living in some other world separate from our own. They looked so happy. I was almost certain they were off dancing in their joyous world, free from all the sorrow and loneliness and pain of this one. Eventually, the speed at which they danced began to slow, as if they were resting their legs. I almost thought I could hear the sound of their feet with each step.
Apologies if at any point during that you could hear the dogs going. It's a big city. It lends to the atmosphere, I suppose.
They've stopped.
They can dance forever. They don't get tired.
I see. I'm amazed such an incredible device exists in this world. It makes me wish I had gone outside sooner.
I'm sure someone from as distinguished a house as yours has seen plenty of amazing things with your family.
Hardly. I rarely ever left the house. I'm ignorant about the ways of the world. If you had not told me, I would have probably never known about moving pictures. The illusion of moving pictures.
Do you like it?
Yes, of course.
More than the portrait you had painted?
Yes. Yes, I do. The painting was wonderful too, but...
You can't seem to make up your mind. Go on, tell me, which do you like better, the portrait or this?
I like this better.
I see.
He looks somewhat pleased.
Though, when it comes down to it, this is a simple trick only a child would fall for.
Then I suppose that makes me a child. If it means I get to watch something as splendid as two tiny people dancing, I'll happily fall for the trick.
Quit describing it as two tiny people dancing. You're gonna lose your head that far up in the clouds.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do not know how else to describe it, though.
It's a toy called a phenakistoscope.
Phenakistoscope?
Phenakistoscope.
Wheel.
Close enough. It was invented about 30 years ago. I had the shopkeep make one modeled after the original design.
So the shop owner drew this?
He did. A lot better than you'd expect, isn't he?
Yes, indeed. I'm surprised he could draw something so cute.
Say that to his face and he'll go red as a beet. What I'd give to get a load of that. You should tell him the next time you see him.
He's a sweet man.
Despite how he looks, you mean?
It's not right to judge people based on their appearance.
Just kidding. Don't take it too seriously. The shopkeep here loves new technology. That phenakistoscope is one such invention that caught his eye. You can trick the eye into think drawings are moving. Using a sequence of photos, you can perhaps make it seem as though real people are moving too. And if it becomes possible to show those images to many people at once, these developments could broaden the options artists have to express themselves.
Not drawings, but photographs?
Yes, photos. By taking hundreds or perhaps thousands of photographs, it would be possible to reproduce the world as we see it. This room, people walking down the streets. There's no point in recording boring everyday life, though. If you're going to leave a record of anything behind, it should be the projects and enterprises that move nations. Say, for example, a moving record of the opening ceremony of the railroad. That would be something worth watching. And then in time, it would expand beyond a mere record-keeping technology and find its way into the hands of artists.
Is such a thing possible? You must remain still for a long time just to take a single photograph.
Right now it isn't, but eventually it will be. And I'm not simply fantasizing here.
Is that so? It sounds so very futuristic.
What?
Do you want to support people who work on that sort of thing? Is that why you are friends with the owner?
It has nothing to do with my wants. I merely think there's money in it. The rich starve for entertainment, and artists create that entertainment. I have no interest in their pretentious self-expression. I just want their money. What? What's so funny?
You look like you're enjoying yourself.
Honestly, it's just about the money.
As you say.
All right, let's get moving. Next is dinner.
What? We're leaving already?
Does that displease you?
No, not at all. To tell you the truth, I wanted to spend a little more time playing with the Phenakis wheel, but I could not bring myself to say as much. Reluctantly, I approached the owner to return the wheel.
Don't bother. Bring it with you.
But
if you don't want it, that's fine too. Just make your decision quickly. You're making the driver wait.
Having said that, Jacopo exited the shop. I alternated between looking at his back and the Phenakis wheel, debating what I wanted to do. And then with a smile, the owner whispered to me,
You're allowed to keep it, really. Your husband out there had it made as a gift for you.
For me?
A little while back he came to my shop asking if I could make a phenakistoscope. Now that about knocked me out of my chair. He's a man who almost never asks for favors. He's pretty damn brusque, and he's got a sharp tongue and a tongue sharp enough to cut steel. But he's not wicked to his core, I swear it. So please, ma'am, be a pillar of support for him.
In that moment, the Fennicus wheel became a precious treasure to me. We had only just married days earlier, and yet he had commissioned it for me without even knowing what I looked like. I was filled with a warm, pleasant elation. I agreed with the owner. Jacopo was not a bad man. He merely had difficulty expressing himself. Hurrying back to the carriage, I gave him my deepest thanks. He glanced over at me for a moment, then turned back toward the window and muttered, "Yeah." From there, we went to a restaurant for dinner.
You call this pizza? This crust is an atrocity. It's like I'm chewing on rubber. I think I could be even angrier about that. You call this a pizza? The crust is an atrocity. It's like I'm chewing on rubber. How can you wave my country's flag and not serve spaghetti? Do you have any shame at all? Oh, this wine is pitifully unbalanced. Far too high levels of acidity. Listen to me carefully. The house wine is the face of a restaurant.
He complained about every little thing. It was a complete disaster. But curiously enough, I was not at all put off by his behavior. When the sun set, my carriage made its way to a nearby hill. The carriage. Our carriage. I am a rich person who has just has just been awakened to her class consciousness. The cool nighttime breeze felt wonderful on my skin, flushed from the alcohol, and the light from the gas lamps had a...
Whoa.
The cool nighttime breeze felt wonderful on my skin, flushed from the alcohol, and the light from the gas lamps had a comforting warmth to it. Though Jacopo had been complaining about the quality of the wine, once he had intoxicated himself, his mood improved visibly. It made him unexpectedly talkative.
Look out at the city. A gloomy town that shuts down at night isn't suited to expansion or growth, but this city isn't like that. You can see people walking beneath the lamps, and you can hear the bustle of them talking. This is a city that still has plenty of room to grow. As they ride the rising wave of the economy, many, many more people will gather here. More people means more money in circulation. More money in circulation means the city grows, companies are funded, and more goods are bought and sold.
Will it really change so drastically?
I like to think the white-haired girl is fucking amazing at holding her liquor. I think it makes sense. It suits her. It can be difficult to see what's happening from the outside. The majority of people just go about their daily lives, and the next thing they know, things are different. No, I'd wager most people don't even notice the changes at all. Only those with eyes sharp enough to realize what's happening can see success. I cannot afford to overlook even the most minute change.
Do you have a dream of some kind?
A dream? I'm not sure if it's easy enough to attain to call a dream. Others might call it greed, or perhaps ambition. Don't laugh now. My intention is to make the world mine.
The world?
Yes, the world. And to do that, you need neither physical strength nor kindness, but money and influence. People have no choice but to kneel before those forces.
Why are you so intent on obtaining power?
Because I want to change my country, I imagine.
Your country?
You are aware that I, like you, am an immigrant, right? I emigrated from an island in the Mediterranean, though not the same island as you. My country is a peculiar place where candor and violence go hand in hand. Does he think her island is in the Mediterranean? Because it's definitely not. As a whole, the country is on the poor side, and if nobody does anything about that... I am one of but a few of my fellow countrymen who has set his sights on the New World. They are falling far behind other nations. If I find success here, perhaps that will catch their attention. But if it doesn't, then my country is doomed to collapse.
You have much love for your homeland.
My feelings are a little more complicated than mere love. But that's nothing you need to concern yourself with. I guess she could be from Cyprus. I don't know, is Cyprus misty? I forget if she ever describes her island as having heavily industrialized, because in that case it would be Britain, which I'm assuming it is. Could be Cyprus, though. It's not Malta. Definitely not Malta. Well, I'll have to remember not to get myself drunk around a woman again. Forget everything I just said. It's about time we head back to the house.
All right, but...
What is it?
Is it all right if I provide you encouragement as you try to attain your dream? I know my presence is more likely to be a hindrance, but I would like to be there to watch as you trek forward.
I suppose. Do as you wish.
Thank you. You have my support, then. Darling.
Sent a shiver down my spine, though not an unpleasant one. I'm glad to have you as my partner. Cyprus isn't misty. It's totally Britain she's from.
I was, without a doubt, happy then. His smile, the things he said, the Fennicus wheel he gave me, they were all undeniably real, and those memories gave me the will to wait for the day things go back to the way they were. They allow me to believe.
Oh, man.
This is something that actually happened to another maid. She heard a sound in the middle of the night. A sound like dripping water. At first, she thought it was raining, so she looked through the window, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky to cover the stars. Maybe it's a faucet, she thought, so she stepped out of her room and into the corridor. Compared to her room, it was unearthly chilly. The maid regretted not bringing something to cover herself with, but that didn't make any sense. Normally, the temperature wasn't that much colder outside her room. Her night clothes had always been more than enough for the trip to the lavatory. Did I put emphasis on the wrong word? Normally the temperature wasn't that much colder outside her room. I don't know. Wondering what the reason could be, she made her way toward the sound, but then she realized something. There were no faucets in the direction she was going. Rather, she was headed toward a hall. The mansion where she served had many halls, but this one was off in a far corner of the house, the least used hall of them all. It had a high roof, but not a lot of space, so it was difficult to make good use of. It also had a somewhat heavy air to it, a very curious room. It was the kind of place you might assign someone to clean as part of their hazing. Anyway, when the maid realized the sound was coming from that particular hall, she, as you might expect, let out an uncomfortable sigh. But there might be a leak, and having noticed, she couldn't simply ignore it, you know. So, as much as she hesitated, she pushed open the doors to the hall. There was nobody there, and it didn't look like anything was leaking either. There were no puddles or water stains anywhere to be found. But she could still hear the sound, drip, drip, getting louder and louder. Slowly stepping further into the room, looking left then right, then left again, she searched for the source of the sound, coming to a stop in the center of the hall. She stood there still, quiet, and then a chilly spot on the nape of her neck. with a little yelp. She reached back to feel her neck, but it wasn't wet. Confused, she slowly, warily tilted her head upward. And there hung a bloody skeleton from the ceiling! Ah! Oh, that's rich! Amazing! Oh my god, you screamed like a little girl!
Maria, you little...
My god, are you men or children? This is my house, so I would rather you didn't talk about it like that. Whose words were those again?
Shut your mouth! How do you know about that? Were you eavesdropping? And another thing, I do not care for the sort of stupid, fantastical tales you women so love to pass around.
Because they scare you. You've never been able to handle anything scary, Jacopo. Whoa, don't glare at me like that. You're gonna destroy my sides.
So, did you come here for the sole purpose of telling me that cheap tripe?
Acting tough after the fact makes you look like twice as much of a wuss. Well, I mean, I did make up a good half of it, but the maid really did hear something in the middle of the night, and it came from the back hall of this very mansion. Did you know? They say it used to be a chapel.
Again, I have no interest in you women's little ghost stories.
Is that so? You sure you're not just scared?
Maria!
Well, that said, the rumors aren't completely unfounded. This is a pretty old mansion, and it's had a lot of work done on it. Kinda feels like it's barely holding itself together. Like a big old quilt with pieces from all different time periods. The back hall is one of the oldest patches. There's a huge window on the far end, and supposedly there used to be stained glass in it. It was a depiction of an archangel, they say. Archangel?
Archangel is right, yeah.
Such a shame. I wonder when it was broken. If it was still there, I bet it would be worth a fortune.
I find that hard to believe. First of all, why would anyone put a chapel inside a mansion?
You've got a point, I guess.
Now how about you do some actual work instead of distracting yourself with all this nonsense?
I do work. But, the other maids can be a bit nasty, you know? Dealing with other women is like walking on glass.
Am I to blame for that?
What if I said you were? Don't give me that look. They're just not fond of me, simple as that. Nothing you can do about it.
Is that so?
Oh yeah, I was talking to the madam, and she said she was telling me you used to be quite the gentleman. Were you perhaps actually in love back then? You sure don't act like it, so it's easy to miss, but I guess you're not entirely made out of steel. You're not entirely made out of steel. Just like when you were younger, you're still...
Do not speak of that. The past is not worth remembering. It is unnecessary.
So to you, the past exists to be cast aside? Nah, it's not important. You don't want to talk to me about it, I won't talk about it. You don't want me to talk about it, I won't talk about it. But your wife... never mind. I'll leave you be. I have to get back to work soon, or I'll be staring down the head maid's arctic smile.
Alright.
If the fancy strikes me, I'll drop by and we can trade more ghost stories.
Maria.
What? No ghost stories?
No, not that. I have not forgotten those days. But... no, it's...
I'll be off then.
Alright. If the fancy strikes you, do drop by and we can trade something other than ghost stories.
What'd I tell you? I'll consider it. Goodbye.
God damn it. I can't escape anything. Can't escape. Oh, fuck me. God damn it. I'm sorry. Didn't skip too much.
Ah, they have grown to be so beautiful. Such a wonderful fragrance. The scent of roses is so calming. I wonder why that is. Would it cause any trouble if I picked one?
Well, hello there. Out for a midnight stroll, are you? Quite the peculiar hobby. Madam?
I cannot spend as much time as I would like outside during the day, so I end up coming out at night. I apologize if I startled you.
Oh, no, not at all. There is a chilling, captivating beauty to the sight of your snow-white form standing there in the moonlit garden.
I would hardly... what are you doing out so late?
I saw a figure through the window. On the slight chance it might be a burglar, I thought it my responsibility to ensure they did not...
Whoa.
On the slight chance it might be a burglar, I thought it my responsibility to ensure they did not break in. It was also the middle of the night when the grocer's servant broke into their safe. News of that spread quite far. I am sure you would have heard about it. But Gamache was in prison some time ago. Dear me, I cannot seem to get my head out of the past. Do you intend to give that white rose to someone?
Yes. I was thinking about giving it to my husband. While I expect he has little fondness for such feminine tastes, the scent of flowers has a truly calming effect. He might find it relaxing when he needs a reprieve from his work.
Oh, is that so? You are very kind-hearted. Speaking of white roses, the rose he meant to give you was the same shade of white. The rose he meant to give you was the same shade of white.
Oh? He...
But when you touched it, it turned a deep shade of red.
Yeah, this white-haired girl and the one from the first door are quite similar, but still different in a number of ways. She also seems older here compared to the first door. There's like the first white-haired girl, it's reductive to say, but she had like a whole daddy issues thing happening. This one, I guess it's just clear that this one has lived a life of luxury compared to both of the other incarnations we've seen. So yeah, the first white-haired girl had more of a sense of sort of desperation to her. This one does not. She's much more... They were both timid, but she here is much more, I don't want to say a doormat, but yeah, a doormat. She's a fucking doormat here. And it's sad, but it's the truth of the matter. But yeah, facets of her remain consistent across every incarnation we've seen, though, and we will get into that.
There was but a single white rose in the garden, so he was unable to give it to you as he had wished. In its place, he had a decorative rose fashioned for you.
What exactly are you referring to?
Oh dear, do you not remember? Then am I to assume you have forgotten what happened to the rose accessory as well?
he was unable to give that to you either. But that time, because you rejected the gift. I am not criticizing you for that decision, of course. You had a perfectly good reason for not accepting it. Heartbroken from having lost you, he buried the rose in his garden. Over the years, the roses in the garden withered away, and in their place grew a thick, unsightly nest of weeds. Many, many years later, that accessory was dug up by a beast, and curiously enough, it had not a speck of rust on it. A beast. You do not remember him either. The foreign man who through his interaction with you almost regained his humanity. I'm sorry. I have no idea what you speak of. The only gift I have ever received from a man is my Fennicus wheel. And furthermore, I have only lived in this mansion for a year. While the garden was not as thriving as it is now, it was certainly not in ruins when I arrived.
I find it hard to believe that her being here for a full year, this is the first time the maid has had this conversation with her.
Because I had been taking care of it, yes. But for whatever reason, my hands alone.
Oh, jeez.
But for whatever reason, by my hands alone, I was unable to make it into anything quite as splendid as it is now. Once you arrived and began to work on it, however, just look around. You have restored it to its former glory, to the magnificence of the flaxen-haired family's time. I promise I am not trying to fault you for anything. Now that I think about it, it makes sense you would not remember. Though you are still you, you are different than before. Different, though not in the sense you are a wholly distinct person. Tell me, is your name again? My name is... Yes, but you should already know that.
Okay, yeah. Disregard my previous comments. It's a bit more complicated than that, it seems.
Again? More proof that you are indeed you. Did you know that your current name is pronounced the same as the name of the person you are waiting for? What are you talking about? I have met you many times and I know of your past, of events that transpired long, long ago. I'm telling you the truth. I first came to this mansion just a year ago. Until then, I had never left my country or even set foot out of my own house. We did not have any servants either. So where then are you saying we met? This mansion, of course. But I'm telling the truth. It was a year ago, shortly after my parents fell ill and received an offer for my marriage. I knew something had to be done. I knew it, and I'm telling the truth. If that is what you remember, then I do not doubt you. But I also suspect I know why you seem so flustered. Are there moments when your memories seem hazy? When it seems like important details have fallen through the cracks? You needn't fret. One day, eventually, you shall remember all. One day.